Hi, I'm Elisa Sherman. I'm the CEO of Ellementa, and this is the Wellness Wednesday or hashtag Wellness Wednesday session. We're starting to do these sessions during this time when we cannot get together in person, during this time of a lot of stress and a lot of the unknown. We are inviting incredible women to this Wednesday midday or morning session to lead us in conversation and meditation. We've got a couple of really fun things coming up next week on Wednesday, April 8th. We're going to have face yoga. There is a thing called face yoga with Kim Sarsons up in Canada. And then on the 15th, we're having Becca Williams, who's going to do a guided meditation, but she calls it an ancient meditation that is meant to heal trauma of the past. So very interesting stuff. But today we have Tania Ahsan, author of Everyday Calming Rituals, and she is coming to us live from London. Hi, Tania.
Hello. Hi, Elisa. Thank you so much for having me on.
I'm so glad I found you on Twitter. You know, that's how this happened. I saw your book. Could just come across. I'm not even sure how or what I was searching for, and then it was there. And Everyday Calming Rituals. Now, right now it's available in the UK, so you could order it on Amazon UK. But I noticed in the States it's October. Is that when the pub date is, or what is the availability?
As far as I understand it, you should still be able to order perhaps the UK version. However, you can definitely get it on audiobook and as an ebook. And so if you don't want to wait till that October print deadline, there are ways and means.
Okay, good. Well, yeah, I love audiobooks a lot. And getting the digital version is convenient as well. So that's good to know. So the first part of our session today, we're going to have a brief conversation about a little bit about your background, the content in your book, and we're really just going to be talking about stress and rituals that can help calm us. So I want to get started on that, and then we'll follow it up with an actual guided meditation that I will also participate in. I will be your guinea pig. But tell us a little bit about your background first.
Okay, well, I was raised by fairly unusual parents in that they weren't very traditional, normative. They're very much what you might call hippie, that sort of vibe. So you're more likely, if you had a headache, to get a Reiki session than paracetamol or, not that they're anti-medicine, they definitely give you medicine if you want it, but there were very many, we were encouraged to keep an open mind about, particularly about energy medicine and particularly about how we are energetically. And so then when I went into my career, my first career was as a journalist and afterwards as a book editor. And so as a journalist, I was interested and attracted by well-being content. So I was basically editing magazines that were within that format. So a lot of everything from astrology through to alternative health and all manner of magazines such as that. But what I found was while I was doing that, certainly in one of the magazines I was editing was owned by this massive corporation, and there was an awful lot of pressure while I was sort of editing this. And so I was sort of editing these articles about how to be happy and how to be stress-free while I was working 15-hour days and just pulling my hair out and constantly, sort of on my computer and things. So I felt a real disconnect between what I knew was the truth for me energetically and what I was actually doing, which I think when you're younger, you do go through that journey quite a lot, where you feel, especially in your 20s, you know, that you have to make a name for yourself. You have to do. Certainly, a lot of people get that real kind of ambition and
internal pressure that you're putting on yourself, as well as the external pressures.
exactly. So, in essence, I mean, the way that you define stress is physiological, mental, emotional reactions to changes and things that are happening around you, that, you know, external factors, also internal factors, it can be, but it's basically that element of change that and how you react to it. So sometimes that can be incredibly good change, and it can be sort of exciting change. It could be, you know, a new relationship, or moving to your dream house, but it will nevertheless result in stress for you, because that's your body's physiological response to that change. And there's good stress, and there's sort of a you know, good level of operating in the world that comes from us reacting in that way to change. And then there's sort of an excess of stress, if you like, which becomes bad stress, because you're constantly on a fight or flight, and your body is always gearing up to react to this change that may not be happening, that may not come. And so I found that certainly at that time, when I was editing this magazine and doing these long days, I was starting to get really sort of panic attacks, and feeling very disconnected from what I was doing, and very tearful, and, you know, without any realizing why. And the way that I got out of it was, and I do sort of say in the book, the kind of trigger point, you know, working late one night. But I discovered that my body was a great indicator, and also a solution for that stress, because the more I went and sort of settled down into the senses, and how that information I was getting from my senses, and how I was feeling around that, I could sort of step out of that sort of hamster wheel, if you like.
Right, it's a loop.
Thought.
It's like a feedback loop,
exactly.
where, and then the idea of the physiological response that is involuntary to us when we're in that state. It's sort of the release of, what I understand is the release of cortisol, and those hormones that are usually released when you're in imminent danger. So your body can react immediately, but there are triggers that aren't imminent danger that can also pump those hormones into our body and put us into those constant states. And so people who have anxiety attacks and panic attacks probably have an abundance of those hormones. And so I love the fact that you bring it to the five senses, because when we are in a dangerous situation, all of our senses are activated at a really heightened level. And so if we are paying attention to our five senses, and so this is really interesting, because it begins to now lead to, you know, what you can do about it. But if we look at our five senses, it seems like we can be very holistic about our approach to stress relief.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think that there is a lot to be said. Generally speaking, most people tend to favor one of their senses over others, like not necessarily that just one, but it's say I'm very visual, and also I my olfactory, is that how you say it?
Olfactory. I got it. I figured that one out. Olfactory.
That's the one. But yeah, so my sense of smell and my visual are very much the ones that I go to, that bring me out of myself. Whereas like my husband, he's a DJ and in music production, so for him it's all about what he can hear, and he'll hear things that I cannot hear. So, you know, machine going late at night, and we live in a block of flats, he will hear that, and that will cause him stress because he's much more sensitive with his hearing. For me, if I come into a room and I've got lots of things, sort of paperwork scattered about and stuff, that will stress me out until I've put it away, and then I can kind of feel like, oh, okay, this is, I like the plain surfaces, and then I know that if I'm ever feeling really quite sort of like not right in myself, there's certain, that scent of bergamot or citrus will just immediately make me feel, okay, I can deal with it.
Interesting. Okay, so for me, it's lavender and ylang ylang. I think that's how you pronounce it. Those are my go-to aromatherapy. I really seek those out and gravitate toward them and feel very grounded with them. And it's interesting too, because my husband, who is a hunter and a trapper, Alaska, and he's from Montana. So he has always had to use all of his senses, but particularly hearing. So he also is extremely sensitive to any sound, because that could mean a grizzly bear or something in camp. So he has to be able to really hear, and it could be a life or death situation. So anything, he can't be in a city with city sounds, because that just overwhelms him completely, and he cannot sleep, and it's super stressful. But even the slightest of sounds, he's on the immediate alert, sort of that safety alert. So that's interesting. It's very.
So I think it's sort of one of the things that the people listening, watching at home, one of the best things you can do is to really question yourself and see which are the senses that you have that heightened connection with, and that can really help in terms of finding these sort of rituals that will calm you when you're in a state of, as we were saying, in that loop and that sort of feedback loop of stress. So
you were talking about then rituals. You've mentioned rituals, and if you could give a couple of brief examples of rituals, and then also, I mean, how realistic is it? We're so busy. How do you put a ritual into your very busy life? Now, obviously, right now in these times, we're busy with entirely different kinds of things, and I'm finding that even when there isn't busy work, my brain is functioning at half capacity, and I'm finding the simplest of tasks that I used to breeze through to be quite difficult. So we are in a different time as well. How are rituals serving us now?
Well, I mean, one of the things is that the action itself is not what makes a ritual. So, you light a candle to sit in meditation in front of it. That's going to feel very different from lighting a candle because the lights have gone out in the block and, you've got a fuse gone. It's the meaning you give to the action, the intention that makes it and creates it as a ritual. However, it's not, I think, where we are now in modern life, whereas in the past we had more, if you like, I mean, I don't mean, I'm using the word dogmatic not in a negative sense, but in a sense that back in the day you had the dogma of the church, and so you kind of knew when, what the little steps were, which particular incense you were using for which ritual, for death rites, for birth rites, for, you had all of that kind of historical body of work around ritual. And in the modern sense, a lot of people, certainly I know from a lot of people that I speak, because I self-identify as a pagan, and a lot of people in the pagan community have come to it from other traditions, and there are certain things, like a smell might set them off and really trigger them for feeling levels of stress, because it's around things that they may have experienced that are not helpful. And so often when you use the word ritual, there is a kind of fear around it, because, does that mean I have to, sort of wear that cape and go out at that time and do that, and bang this drum?
Have a magic wand.
Yeah, exactly. What exactly does it?
Yeah, what does it mean exactly?
That barrier of ritual like it, you know, and we have it with cults and things like, so we worry about it. However, as I'd said, I mean, the everyday element of that book title is there because when you brush your teeth, that is a ritual of hygiene that you do every day, twice a day at a particular set time. When you
it's sort of process plus habit, process plus habit.
Process plus habit, and then the ritual is where you put the meaning into it.
Meaning.
So
and
the
meaning
kind
and
of mindfulness, that kind of mindfulness. So if you make tea just out of habit, blurry-eyed first thing in the morning, and you just sort of put the tea bag in, and you know, you are still engaging in your habitual routine and your habits of having tea. However, if you make a full ritual of it, and certainly, you know, cultures such as the Chinese or the Japanese will have tea making rituals, and you stop, you pause, you breathe, and you enter that space, and you turn that space sacred. And it is incredibly hard when, as you say, our mental capacity to deal with the stress that we're in at the moment with the global pandemic, with the fact that a lot of people are homeschooling children for the first time, have no idea how to deal with, you know, having kids run riot through the house all day long, having to spend an awful lot of time in close proximity with family members that normally you might have had, you know, you love them dearly, but you might have had that kind of time away at work to remember that you love them.
Exactly.
So this is an incredibly difficult time, and certainly I'm not going to sit here and say, oh, and then you must add a ritual 5 times a day, you must do this, and you must absolutely have a cerise candle, no other candle will do. You know, that's not really what I'm here to put extra pressure on people. It's nothing like that at all. It may be as simple as actually taking time to pause and breathe at some state in your day when you're feeling, you know, perhaps a degree of overwhelm. And perhaps, you know, you're remotely working, everything's going mad, somebody's set a chip pan on fire, it's all sort of, sometimes, I mean, in the past, and I give Christmas as a good example to this, you know, because Christmas is a good example of when we put a lot of pressure and have family round and lots of to do, and I've even said to people, just use your loo break as an extra, just taking an extra minute, you know, you can run the tap. Water is phenomenal, and, you know,
the sound of water, the sound of rushing water,
the feel, it's so nourishing. And in taking that breath and taking that time for yourself, even if it's a minute or two, you're creating rituals that respect yourself and your boundaries, and the fact that you can't do it all and you can't be it all, and all that overwhelm has to go out somewhere. So you're okay. You can take 3 breaths for yourself.
That's one of the things that you talk about, the 3 breaths. You know, we're getting close to the time that we should go into this, now that you're talking about, maybe lead us in some sort of process or meditation. I will follow you, and we'll see how that goes. I can start our little timer, for the next 10 minutes or so. A little shorter is fine. You're leading this, and I will follow. But this is a wonderful way of giving a real life example to get people started on this, particularly those who have never meditated before.
Lovely. Well, let's do that then.
Okay.
So first things first, I want everyone to make sure that they have their feet flat on the ground. So if you need to put a cushion or a box under you, that's fine. Just sort of put your feet flat on the ground and make sure you're sitting comfortably. And you can sort of just do a little bit of a scan. Adjustment scan, yes, where the bra is digging into you and things like that, just sort of all of that. But what I'd like you to do is then close your eyes, and first things first, just take a little check of your body and see where things feel good And where you maybe feel a little, some challenging feelings, pain, soreness, anything like that, just acknowledge it and thank your body for communicating that to you. And what we're going to begin with are 3 breaths, in through the nose and out through the nose. And if we start with that first breath, in through the nose, out through the nose. And try, if you can, on the second and third breath, to make your inhale slightly shorter than your exhale. So and as we do that third one, really feel the tension and any of those sort of soreness leaving your body through that exhale. So in. Out. Now keep your eyes closed and keep your feet grounded on the floor. You can have your hands resting in your lap, palms upwards. And let your breathing just slow, gentle. No need to force it. Nowhere to go. Just going to stay calmly in this moment. And if any thoughts come, that's absolutely fine. You can thank them for reminding you of whatever it is they're reminding you of, and you'll just let them float away. And now, imagine that above your head there is a column of golden light, really sparkling. Really visualize that really pure golden light. And imagine that that column of golden light is entering into the top of your head. And as it's moving down through your body, it's exiting all your pores, taking all that stress, and any worries and to-do lists and concerns, flushing it out through your pores and replacing it with this real sparkling golden light. And as that light leaves your feet down to the earth, you can feel that you're nourishing the earth with yourself as the conduit that's bringing that lovely energy down, healing your body, healing the earth, feeling really good. And direct that light to wherever it needs to go. If you're feeling there is, say, a blockage in your throat or in your chest, or you're feeling a stomach is feeling a little churned, or a knee, anywhere that you feel that you personally need that energy to go, just have it go there. There we go. Now what I'd like you to imagine is that being filled with that golden, sparkling light, it's coming out through your belly button, in front of you into a sphere. And there's a big sphere of light right in front of you at your stomach. And in that space in front, in that sphere of golden sparkling light, you can see within it yourself, your family, and your friends. And it's a happy scene. So this may be a memory. It may be something you hope to have happen soon. Maybe something that just a place you visited that you really loved and will go to again. And take yourself to that happy place. Really visualize it in that sphere in front of you. What are you wearing? What are you smelling? Can you feel what's between your toes? If it's sand, if you're on a beach, or if it's your skis, if you're skiing, it's all up to you. But really visualize that scene, that joyous scene, and engage with all of your senses. What do you hear? What do you see? What can you taste? What do you hear? Okay. Feel everything. Enjoy that. Stay in that place. Keep your breathing relaxed. If thoughts intrude, thank them, let them drift away. And what you can do now is if you take that sphere of light and energy and just move it up with your hands, up over your head, back into that column of light. And then you turn your palms face down, your lap, and take that energy back up to your crown. And imagine that there's a little window on your crown that's just closed, and the column has gone back up to the sky, but you're left filled with this lovely light. It's within your body, and you can feel through your feet that your feet are the boundary between you and the earth, but you're still connected. And you can go back to that happy place and those feelings and what it was that you experienced in that visualization. What I'd like you to do is just rub your hands on your lap, just face down, and then come back into your body and do that scan again. Maybe roll your shoulders. Feel where you felt before, or anything that felt a bit sore. How does that feel now? Anything that feels good, part of your body that feels good. So you can stay with that. When you're ready, you can open your eyes. You can come back into the room, and you can revisit that place of happiness whenever you like. And that was super quick, and it's something that we can do, every day. You can kind of just call on that energy, which is just, it's universal energy, it's around, and we can take it with us into our bodies for feeling good.
For healing.
Yeah.
Wow. Very interesting. I think that's probably the longest guided meditation I've done so far.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I've tried a couple of really short ones on things like Headspace.
Yeah.
There's a new app a client of mine just came out with called the Mindful Mamas app, which
Oh,
is
wonderful.
very geared toward mothers.
Yeah.
It's lovely. They're very, very short as well. Yeah, very interesting. I like that a lot. It's, I was thinking when you were saying to scan the body at the beginning and trying to find those sort of pain points, if you will, I was thinking literally at first and yeah, I actually was bitten on my leg by a dog last week on a walk. It was very bizarre.
Oh,
But it was a small dog, and I've I've been monitoring it, and it seems okay. And the dog was not a stray, so. But I was thinking that was where I was going to be putting energy just for healing. But when you said bring the light into the place, it went straight to my heart.
it's very intelligent. It goes to where you need it. You know, it's sort of like Reiki practitioners will always say this, that generally speaking, you don't even need to direct it. The reason I tend to say in guided visualization to direct it is because I think sometimes often we hold stress in specific areas, and
Mm-hmm.
it also helps with the whole mental connection with it, where if you feel that you're doing something, you know, that is your problem. But as you say, when you're doing it, you do find that generally that energy is intelligent and it will go to where you need it. And
Mm-hmm.
I'm not surprised about the heart, because gosh, do we need that right now? You know,
Yeah.
there's so much hard stuff coming up for people with all those emotions of, you know, a lot of people are spending way too much time watching news, which I completely understand why, because
Mm-hmm.
you know, you want to know what's going on, you want to answers, there's nowhere to go, so you're kind of looking at it. And one of the things that we've sort of done is we have a morning burst just to make sure that nothing's happened overnight that we don't know about. And then we
Right.
have, here in the UK, we have updates from the government at about 5, 6 p.m. So we then just watch that update, because it's not commentary on news, it's just the news for any new laws that have been put in and things. And then that's it. We just, because in the beginning, oh my gosh, phones constantly, and you hold all of that tension right here and here and in your stomach, and you know, a lot of I feel so sorry for my friends with IBS syndrome, you know,
Mm.
problems, because it's that a lot of people are having massive flare-ups to do with all that's happening and all this, you know, worry.
Yeah, our gut especially is so important, the balance in our gut. And, in terms of overall health, it becomes very imbalanced with that kind of unaddressed stress. Yeah, I think taking some time to do some of these things is healing on multiple levels.